All right, our lesson today is about God gives the Ten Commandments. Um, Children of Israel have been released from Egypt for about 3 months now. They've crossed the Red Sea already and delivered from the Egyptian army, and they ran out of food and water, and God provided them with manna and with water, and then the attack of the Amalekites um, was attacking them, and God showed them that as long as they are connected to God, basically, as long as Moses had his arms, praying to God, that they were having a victory. And when he quit, it went the other way. And so they were learning all kind of things. And now they are going to learn some things about God and what he expects. Moses has gone up into the mountain, and God is going to speak with him there and give him the Ten Commandments. So that's where we are on our lesson in Exodus chapter 20. And who'd like to read verses I think I want to read verse 1 through 5. Who'd like to read verses 1 through 5? Go ahead.
And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which hath brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them, for the Lord thy God, I am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generations of them that hate me.
Okay. All right. One of the things I would like to mention, the insert in your bulletin today has an article on it, and I thought it was kind of interesting. The Ten Commandments isn't about, it isn't about American law. It isn't about Jewish law. It isn't about a monarchy or a dictatorship, because these laws transcend any rulership that happens. This is about without laws in any of these things, we suffer really, and any of these what do you call it, rules, that these laws a person can still obey and prosper, and they don't usurp the I should say, doesn't usurp a monarchy, it doesn't usurp a dictatorship, it doesn't usurp, but basically these transcends all these things really. But God has His standard, and with these laws we are seeing some things about who God is. And we notice that the first four laws deal with God. Man's dealing with God, and it's a relation. It's a the relationship it's dealing with is between man and God. And God spoke these sayings, is, I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt. Now he's talking to going to be talking to the Israelites, and he's identifying who he was. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt. Okay, you saw me work in Egypt. You saw what I did to their gods. I destroyed them. I made you sick of them. And, okay, I am that God that did that. I am the God of, of all these things. That I am the God that is powerful than all these other gods. I am so he's identifying himself and that who he is. This is the same God that had all this power there, and he has this power now. And thou shalt have no other gods before me. Now let's get that straight. You see, well, they're used to having all these other gods. Now he's talking to the Egyptians, and so they are, if anyone should know, they should know that God whooped them. and he was shown to have more power than all of them, and he doesn't want to have any other God before me. And not only that, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, that is in earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God. I want to be exclusively yours. I don't want you. I'm not sharing you. These other things, they don't mean anything. They're just paper. They're just wood, and they don't have the mind. But I am a living God, and I am a jealous God. And I want exclusive.
Go back then, the people had a God for everything, every individual thing.
Yeah. Now we don't see a bunch of idols. Most of the time, we're not. A lot of times, but we have our own version of idols that we don't recognize as idols sometimes. Go ahead.
Verse 4, everybody notice what it says there. It says, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness or anything that is in heaven above or in the earth beneath or in the water under the earth. That verse right there kept me from wearing a cross for years. I would not wear a cross. Well, a preacher one day asked me, he said, why won't you wear a cross? And I said, because of that verse right there. And he says, well, you're not worshiping the cross. He said, the cross is a symbol. It's not an image, something that you worship. And then after that, I started wearing a cross now and again. But I wouldn't wear one prior to that. I just wouldn't. And,
What about a little statue on the dash of your car?
well, yeah, I've seen that. I don't have one on mine, but I've seen that. I'm leery of that kind of stuff.
Well, it says to worship them.
Yes.
That's the
And you're
key.
not worshiping the cross. It is
Yes.
a sign that you are a Christian.
Now, the sports athletic people, they're worshipped. The people
Oh,
that,
yeah.
the TV evangelist, right or wrong, people have the right motives or the wrong motives or whatever, they're worshipped. There are people, the Mary, Virgin Mary, what are they
Oh, yeah.
called? Marion,
Madonna?
yeah, but there's a following, and they worship the Virgin Mary. They think she's still a virgin, that she's the queen of heaven. Well, that's absolutely, so that's what that verse is talking about. It's talking about money doesn't count, put nothing, absolutely nothing above God. God is always first. That's what that verse means.
You get into tattoos here, I guess. Like the cross. I think you're afraid of where, and the Bible talks about, and his name is on his thigh, and that type of. Those are marks of ownership or identifying. You pierce. You would get your ears pierced if you were going to be a bond slave for someone for life.
Mm-hmm.
Those are things that identify you as who you are. So I mean, I used to be against, not as much, but I would look unfavorably on the tattoos, but I think I changed a little bit on that. I mean, some of them are ridiculous. Some people get way out of hand, I think. But,
It's all where your heart is and where your mind is.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. The idea, and we can get hung up on this, and we can really get hung up on this, and but the point is here is who is at the center. Who is at the center? And that's what he's establishing here. We can get sidetracked and go all these different directions right here, but it's about establishing your foundation here. Once you're established this way, everything else kind of works out. But this is important, and this is where we fail all the time. It's because we lose track of this connection right here in our lives. Are we putting God first in our lives? Are you changing your allegiance to, well, I got to work to make the money, and well, okay, you don't trust me anymore, and that's tough, especially in some. Well, did I make the right kind of decision? Sometimes you wonder, you question yourself, well, I have to compensate for my maybe bad decision. I don't know, and so so sometimes we don't trust in God, and we kind of okay, I gotta trust in myself. I gotta get myself out of this, or a relationship that's up and down here is first here, and thou shalt thou shalt not serve them, for I am the Lord, is a jealous God, visiting iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generations of them that hate me. I think the key part of that verse that we neglect is that them that hate me.
Right.
And a lot of times we say this is a generational curse, and it doesn't matter what they did, that God's going to be punishing them because for something that I did. No, that's not what he's saying. Yeah, he's going to keep on punishing them, whether it's if your kids are going to hate God, well, they're going to get punished too. If their kids hate God, they're going to get punished too. This is not something that I am going to let go. I want them to serve me. And it's not the fact, well, it's his fault, he hated God, and okay, so the curse is going to go down 4 or 5 generations. No, it's going to follow the generations if they continue to hate God.
You have kings. You'd have a good king, his son would turn out to be a rotten king. And his son would turn out to be a good king. That happened all through Judges and the Kings and Samuel and so forth. You know, that some of them just was rotten to the core.
Right. So generational curses, that's not really what it's talking about. It's talking about God's punishment is towards he's going to keep on punishing them no matter how many times or how, you know, who they are. I just heard that spoken that way. I always kind of questioned that, but it's not that they did it, because he talks about in the scriptures that the father's not going to be responsible for the kids,
Right.
and the kids are not going to be responsible for what the father did. We are responsible, and then I think this is what this was trying to really get across, that we are responsible for what we do. Period. And this isn't something that's, okay, you are good, so I'm good with the rest. No, or you are bad, and I'm going to continue to be. If your sons are bad, they're going to get punished too. And this is something that, and we can't teach kids to do evil,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
to get in the same habits that we get into.
I think that's what it's saying.
Mm-hmm.
Your kids have lived around you all their life and they copy after you, they're gonna do the same
Right.
things that you've done.
Right.
Therefore, they're gonna get punished because you
Yeah.
taught them that.
Not because he did it, but because you taught them to do it.
Yeah. If they just copied after him, yeah. That's the way I look at it.
And you know what? That was backed up in the scriptures I read this morning. You remember that? I'm now keep trying to lose, but a glimpse of that. I remember that. You remember if you teach the little ones to obey, then that's good. But if you teach them to disobey, and then that's not good. So that's what we were talking about in Matthew 5. And I'm not sure which verse, but if you go back there and look at those verses in Matthew, you'll find that what we teach them is important. So our teaching of our kids and stuff, in a way, we're talking about here the fathers teaching their children here. That's basically what we're saying here in that verse. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead. Verse 6 through. Who like to read verses 6 to 10? Go ahead, George.
And showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shall thou labor and do all thy works, but the 7th day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou should not do any work, thou nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates.
I'll go ahead and read verse 11.
Okay? For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them his, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it.
Okay. Let's see, and showing mercy unto the thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless and taketh his name in vain. And there's other scriptures that talk about God's name, and we are not to be careless of what we. Okay, think of it this way. What does your family name mean? And you realize that the meaning of that family name is based on the character that you have. When I look at Denny here, and I think, okay, Mr. Barry, what does that mean? Well, I'm gonna look at you and I say, well, he's a good guy. He's helpful. Okay. And when people look at Tom, I say, well, he's the guy that does we're gonna look at that. But you get a child, Watkins. Oh, he was arrested. At 10 years old, he was already arrested. He was pulled brought home in a police car. What did he do to that family? What? Oh, I can't. I know Tommy's a good guy, and my dad is a good guy, but, well, Davey, he got brought home in a police car. What kind of reputation do I send about my family? And that's what we're kind of doing. Are we making a mockery of God's name? We call ourselves Christians. Christians. You know, in fact, how we live our lives draw attention to who we are. You know? Are we, in the way we live our lives, calling to take God's name in vain?
You know, there was a guy on TV that come in there and he said, he named a whole bunch of stuff that was taking God's name in vain. And I don't see it that way. I just don't. I get ticked off once in a while and I'll say, God bless. I don't feel it's taking God's name in vain because God is not his name. Mm-hmm. God, there was many gods. God is not his name. Matter of fact, I've got a marker here that's got all the names of him on it. There must be 15 or 20. I didn't know he had that many names. But Karen used to tell me, he said, well, you're taking the Lord's name in vain. Well, I don't feel it was. This guy said, if you say gosh darn, that's taking God's name in vain. And I think you can get too ridiculous with it one way or the other. And I don't know what, I really don't feel like if I say God bless something because I mash my finger or something, that's taking God's name in vain. Now if I use Jesus' name, it'd be a little different story.
We got to be careful about what we say. What does God condemn? What does God bless? What does God? Are we to assume that we know what God would or would not bless or not? We may be angry and pronounce God's judgment on someone, through the use of our saying that God will rain destruction on someone, basically. Is that what God would do?
But
Are we,
make-
are we assuming God's intentions, in other words?
if you miss your finger, whatever words you say is not gonna make it any better or any worse. That's up here.
Yeah. But I just, these are some things to consider. But we can't, you know, when we were in court and stuff like that, if you had ever had to go before the judge, and I did once, and you know, do you swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? We were told to say, I affirm, as opposed to what they were asking you to say,
Well, what you read there this morning said, don't swear an oath.
right.
Let your yes be yes and your no be no.
So, character of God. Anyhow, remember and the Sabbath day. I always think of this as a law that kind of is purely for ourselves.
Well, that's what
Really?
Jesus basically said, didn't he? Said the Sabbath wasn't made for.
And reflection. We need to stop and say, okay, who's this day for? It's for me to think about what God did, basically. Our calendar makes us think about what God did. Isn't that, we can't get away from it, you know, really. We can't get away from God's work. And they were serious about this, and they got over serious about this. And we're going to have to run through these or other ones. But honor father and mother. Now that we start some of these other, honor thy father and mother, that the days may be long upon the land of which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservants, nor his ox, nor his ass, or anything that is thy neighbor's. These laws help us to deal with us and our neighbors. It helps to have the right relationship this way, that we understand the relationship this way. To commit one, you're guilty of all. A lot of times we steal would be because we covet. And if you analyze it and you realize that you have broken all the laws, you just you took God's name in vain, because if you're a Christian and you covet and you steal and well, you've also taken God's name. You made God a mockery, didn't you? I mean, yeah, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, I didn't do that. And people look at it in blocks. I'm good. But God looks at it as, well, this leads to this, and this leads to this, and this leads to that. So you're guilty of all. Realizing that we're all found guilty, and that not one of us is righteous, no, not one.
Amen. There's that card I was telling you about. There's 26 names on there.
He has more than that, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a good start.
It's kind of interesting. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, they are.
It even gives the verses in the Bible where you can find them.
Yeah.
I don't know where I got that card. Or marker. I've been using it for a marker for a long time. You can tell that by looking at it.
These are the guidelines that were established to have a good relationship with God and man. They fit in any structure. And so we're without excuse, no matter whether this is a monarchy or whether it's a democracy or whatever it is, not to follow these. Can we keep them?
Not usually.
No. I think
No.
it'd be impossible to keep them all.
Are they for us today?
Yes.
In the sense that we're not judged by them because we know that we can't, but they do show us how we're supposed to look like. They are to show us, they are the picture of what we should look like. And so we should, here, say something. But they show us how we should live our lives.
One of these books, I don't know where I read that now, but this is not a law. The Ten Commandments are not laws. So what are you gonna call them? Rules to live by
They're
or
instructions.
instructions, all right?
Yeah.
That's what they are.
They were instructions for us, and so, but
But they're not laws, it said, as one guy pointed out, that they're not.
Correct. They are instructions.
they point us to the direction that we need to go. If we want to be right with God, and we try to match these things, we're not going to make it, but if we're going to try, we do our best. We do our best. With that, I'm going to have to turn over to the Sunday school report because we ran out of time.